Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today for another thought from the Bible. I want to talk about the topic of money today. It's something that's been a little bit on my mind this week, which I'll explain about as we go through. But I find it to be a really interesting topic. See, Jesus, while he was on the earth, in his recorded teachings that we have in the Bible, he spoke about money more than he did about heaven and hell combined. I just find that fascinating. I'm pretty sure that he knew this would be something that we would struggle with. Now, we need money to function in this world that we live in, unless we're going to go and live completely off grid and hunt for our food and grow everything we need. We need money. It's how we buy stuff. It's how we get food and rent and electricity. We need money for it all. And it can be a bit of a problem when there's too much money or too little money. Too much and we find ourselves completely dependent on it. We feel secure, not because of God in us, but because of money in our bank accounts. Too little and we find ourselves desperate for it, constantly worrying about it, about the lack if we don't get more of it. Perhaps Agur had it right in his saying in the Proverbs, where he said, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." Now, the reason that money has been on my mind a little bit this week is because of a completely unexpected and very expensive car repair bill. Now, this place where we live here in Monrovia in Liberia is absolutely beautiful. We live really close to the beach. I can hear the ocean from where I'm standing right now. The problem with that is the salt water that blows from the ocean combined with the humidity here. It means that things corrode so fast. Everything metal gets rusty, and that includes the underside of our car, apparently. So we had it taken to a garage and they sprayed it with rust removing chemicals and welded bits of metal to cover the holes that were in the chassis of the car and sprayed it with some anti-rust coating. Now, it was much worse than we'd expected and it cost a lot. It was more than we were anticipating, for sure. Suddenly, I realized not only would I not be putting any money aside this month, saving anything, but I would actually have to withdraw money from the savings that I had so carefully been trying to put away. And I know that I'm incredibly blessed to be in a position where I have enough money put to one side to pay for an unexpected expense this time. But there's that little voice in my head that says, you had enough this time. But what if there's some other unexpected expense that crops up in the next weeks? What if you don't have enough for that expense? What will happen the next time something comes up? You won't have enough. You will lack. Now, money itself isn't evil. It's not. That's a frequent misquote from the Bible, which actually says in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." It's not money itself that's evil. It's not a bad thing to have it. The problem is when it worms its way into our hearts and makes us think that without it, we're lost. That without it, we're going to struggle and fail at life. That it's the most important thing, that we need it above all other things. And it's in that love of money, whether we have it or don't have it, that the root of all kinds of evil forms, where we see greed, where we see bribery, where we see that desperate desire to cling on to what we have and not share anything because it's so important for us to have and keep hold of that wealth. The problem is when we begin to think that money is the only thing that really matters and that our entire security is found in it, that if we have enough of it, we don't really need God at all. Now, Paul in his letter to Timothy continued along this theme. Later in that same chapter, in 1 Timothy 6 and verse 17, we read, "Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment." Where's your trust when unexpected bills come up? When the expenses seem higher than the income this month and you're not sure how to make ends meet? When that wealth that you have managed to save, that you've managed to earn and you've been putting away, is suddenly threatened by a change in the markets or interest rates or currency conversion, or by some unexpected expense that you suddenly need to spend it all on, and you're left with nothing. Money is unreliable. It can be there one moment and gone the next. But the great news is that money may be unreliable, but God is not. He is absolutely reliable and trustworthy. He truly is everything, absolutely everything that we will ever need. Even if the bank balance says that we don't have enough, or the money stuffed under the mattress, we always have enough because God is with us. And as this verse in 1 Timothy tells us, the God in whom we trust richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. I just think that's so beautiful. God's abundance goes above and beyond the basics. He richly gives us what we need, not just for survival, but for our enjoyment too. Now, does that mean that we always get what we want? That we can ask for anything and we'll have it? That we should all be multi-millionaires living with tons of money? No, absolutely not. Having all the money in the world does not bring you enjoyment. It does not bring you contentment. So many celebrities we hear of who are desperately unhappy and unfulfilled. People who win the lottery and realize that money wasn't what they needed at all. That they spend it all and suddenly find themselves in debt because they can't maintain that standard of living anymore. All the money in the world will not leave you with contentment. It will not give you enjoyment. The more we trust in God, the more contentment we find in Him, the more we'll actually find the things that bring us enjoyment begin to change as well. Rather than having the fancy new phone or whatever it is that might tempt you, we might find more enjoyment in blessing other people. We might find more enjoyment in simple days with loved ones, in the beauty of creation, in the unexpected smile from a stranger. You know, the world is always going to tell you that you need more stuff, that you need more money, that if you're going to be secure and happy, you need wealth. But God knows what we really need. And it's not what the world tells us is the most important. What we really need is Him. He fills in the gaps. He'll provide the rest. He will meet our needs. And He will richly, over and above, give us everything that we need for our enjoyment. It might not be piles of wealth, but how amazing to find contentment and enjoyment in every single day, regardless of how much or how little we may have. That is what the God we trust in promises to us. Thank you so much for joining me for that thought from the Bible. I'll be back on Wednesday next week with another video, so I will see you then.